And hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Wide League. My name is, of course, Big Slim World, and I'm here with the one, the only Justin Tang. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Doing all right. I'm looking forward to some Pokemon. It's been a while since I've casted, and for you, this is your debut. So, a lot of interesting things of everybody's testing out for Worlds. Of course, we've seen Olson, who we'll be seeing again with, of course, Flutter. You're always going to see those, but I'm more interested in Magic 45's teams, which actually just defeated Joe in Top Cut. So we do have the open team sheets, and just to go over a little bit, we have seen there's a Basket Legion team running around, but some components have been switched around. So Justin, like, what do you think of these kind of new parts on this Basket Legion team? We see Magic 45 running here.
I really like the choice band Urshifu. Like, I know that mon does like insane damage, and it's also
Yeah.
crazy that they have the Chen Pao with it. So you're basically one-shotting basically everything, and you also have Basket
Hmm.
Legion, and also like another component I like is the Terra Grass Fluttermane, which I think is pretty cool because it means you kind of shut down the Moongus. It's also pretty solid versus Ursaluna because it's like they can't headlong rush you. Are they gonna read your Terra? Then Facade Ghost type. It's like it's kind of cool versus that too. And overall, the team's pretty solid. It's just really offensive and just hits hard. So can't hate it.
Absolutely. And for everybody who's listening to us, the Basket Legion team, just to give you the rundown of the complete six, is going to be it is the Damp Rock Pelipper. Of course, Helping Hand, Hydro Pump, Tailwind, no Protect, so just really offensive and support. Basket Legion with the Life Orb, Terra Water, of course, anything it touches pretty much disintegrates. We do have the Booster Energy Flutter with the Terra Grass that Justin did refer to, so a great way to get around Amoongus. Amoongus is actually the next Pokemon up with the Terra Water. Of course, Pollen Puff, No Protect, Clear Smog, all the things you need, and Rocky Helmet, which is a great counter to things like Urshifu. And the next one, of course, is the Dynamic Duo here with can break through any wall. It is Chen Pao, and of course, the Church Band Urshifu. And it is the Dark Urshifu, just to, get it correct, because, there's enough water that's going around. So now that we finally made the rundown of those six, we're moving over, of course, to everybody's. You just saw it last stream or last stream game. It is the Fluttermane, Rilla, Urshifu, Heatran. It is the epitome of balance. Fire, water, grass, fairy, steel, dragon. It's everything you need. So of course, it as simple as it is, like it works. So what do you think of this team that Olson's running, Justin?
This is a really strong team. I know like many people have been running. I know Marco won. He won the Nino Tour with this team as
Yeah.
well. The same six. It's pretty much your standard, almost balance. It's kind of balanced with like a Dragonite Chen Pao. But what
Yeah.
makes this kind of interesting is that it's actually Giga Impact on Dragonite, which I think is really cool. In
That's
Fort
true.
Wayne, I face Giga Impact Dragonite, so I know its power. It's really strong, and it's just the auto nuke button. And you have a solid Fire, Water, Grass core, and you have a Fantasy core. It's just good mons placed together. Type synergy, strong duo, Chen Pao Dragonite. You can't really go wrong with it. And yeah, it can't. I'm not really surprised that this is top four. It's just an
Yeah,
all-around solid
absolutely.
team.
Yeah, it's just a matter of like it's one of the teams, of course, just how balanced teams work. Like you have all the tools you need. It just kind of like will bring the right tools to each game. That kind of depends on you, the player. So, very different teams here. One, of course, is just like hyper ready to just burst through any wall, and the others is like, okay, I'm gonna take my time and calculatedly pick my spots. So it's gonna be interesting as we do see. For us, they're at team preview, so they're ready to start this show on the road. So, Justin, what do you think the optimal leads are here if you're Olsen going into this really offensive rain team?
Um, I'm not so sure about optimal leads, but it looks like he's locking in with the Chan Pao or Shifu. Oh, wait, they're going right in. Um,
Oh, it's
but I
time.
think Shifu is pretty solid. You can having your own water type to abuse rain. I think is pretty smart. Also having
Absolutely.
two resist to the Chen. Oh yes, your Chen Pao resist as well, and it's also resisting their Shifu. And his own Chen Pao is also really good versus, well, his Chen Pao as well, and versus things like Basket Legion with Sucker Punch and things like that.
And as we do see
So
the leads come out here, it is you do see the double cats. It is Chen Pao and of course Chen Pao. But the one thing that does make a difference here, it is booster flutter on the opposing side versus Urshifu. So automatically just at lead alone, a slight edge, of course, going to having flutter remain on the field. So now going into this next one, I think Urshifu is something that you necessarily don't want to lose just yet because you can potentially abuse rain. Do you play a little defensive here if you're Olsen, or do you just kind of, you know what, I'm going to see if I can take out this Flutter Mane right now?
I think since this is Terra Grass Flutter Mane, this is very interesting because Farmer can obviously Terra Grass here, but Chen Pao, of course, is an Ice type and can hit it.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe kind of Olson kind of has sort of the advantage here because Olson can either knock out the Chen Pao with the Surgeon Strikes, of course. That would always get up because of Mystic Water. But it looks like he's going for a double up here, which should take out the Flutter Mane, regardless of Terra or not. And obviously, yeah, so this looks like a dead Flutter Mane, and we can see who's faster here. And yeah,
Absolutely. Ice
Flutter
Shield
Mane just
Crash
gone.
does come out. Yep. And
Yeah.
just like that, Flutter Mane just goes down a really just aggressive play, and it does work out. Chen Pao is left to its own devices. You're going to go for the Sacred Sword, and of course, we'll knock it down to Sash. But you kind of take that trade. It's pretty good. You do lose your Sash, but I mean, you got Flutter Mane out of the way. You didn't have to Terra. So, all in all, a really, really great turn. And now we do see the Rain all of a sudden. And now things get interesting because if Rain is in the back, then you're kind of in an interesting spot because Urshifu can kind of take advantage of that here, and it's not really threatened except anything by like potentially Hurricane. So a very interesting spot. What do you think is going to happen this next turn?
Well, it looks like it's gonna Terra. Urshifu can Terra here and easily can take out probably the Pelipper even as well. Also getting rid of the Pelipper would be pretty good, so we can't Hurricane your Rillaboom in the back. Because I don't see a problem with that. Leaving Chen Pao in the field is probably okay, I feel. Or you can get rid of it right here as well, and Chen Pao here can easily protect that as well. I feel like the Flutter Mane going down is really good for Frozen here because of the Dragonite in the back. Dragonite can now freely E-Speed versus most of his Mons, and looks like okay. So
Yeah, so
Chen
just a
Pao's
Sucker
gone.
Punch coming out, and Chen Pao
Yeah.
does go down. You will potentially just get this free Surging Strikes off. Does go into the Chen Pao, and this, of course, is it. You won't even need 3 hits, and you do. But either way, Chen Pao off the field. Now you could potentially set up Tailwind here, or you could just go for a Hurricane here. And I'm kind of interested in what happens because, like you referenced to earlier, if it is Rilla in the back, which it probably is, you're kind of in a tough spot just because it is Terra Water and you do have everything basically weak to Rilla. So I'm kind of interested in how this goes. And there's one more Mon in the back as we do see the Hurricane come out and take out, and it is the Dragonite.
That was I think those are okay turn events. Honestly, I would probably prioritize the Pelipper, just because I think keeping their Shifu alive would have been kind of nice actually, just because it's a good resist to like Basket Legion here. And this is going to be kind of an interesting turn because Last Respects is boosted, and the Pelipper is still alive. And Basket Legion can I think obviously is a pretty good advantage here, but the Basket Legion can really click Last Respects on a lot of Mons, and Pelipper is still alive to click Hurricane. So kind of see how this goes here.
Absolutely, and we do see this locking in the Terra Normal and gonna lock himself into Outrage as we do see the Woodhammer, and this is one of the great things about this format, just because if anybody remembers Real Life old, this will be just Grassy Glide City, but it no longer has Grassy Glide, so you kind of have to just actually, take your time. You can't just prioritize your way to victory. So I'm interested to see how this turn goes. As you said, Last Respects is boosted, so kind of pick which one you want to take out. You could easily just take out the Rilla here, but then you also have to worry about potentially what the Dragonite can do since it's locked into Outrage. Do you have enough firepower to make sure if you do take out one, can you defeat the other? And we're going to see the Terra is going to come out here. It will be the Dragonite, and it is going to be Terra Normal, and we did see it did lock itself into Outrage. So let's see how this turn plays out. And just alluding to how this turn is going to go, do you think there's enough from this Rain Core that can take out the Dragonite and the Rilla within the same turn?
Well, it's time to find out. Well, actually, Rillaboom living here is actually huge, and I was gonna say like that's a dead Pelipper, and this is probably dead Basket Legion. So it looks like
Absolutely.
Rain can't do it. Well, it depends if it can take the Outrage here is actually really important. But I mean, this is Choice Band boosted, and this might be game.
Yeah, do know if it is able to tank this Outrage, then obviously you do get the range because it's no longer locked in, and Basket Legion does go down. Once again, Dragonite showing why it does reign supreme. This Choice Band set just too much damage, and it's a lot to deal with. Rilla was in a good spot, but unfortunately, a little bit of a wrong target there. Maybe if we targeted the Basket Legion instead, things would have been a little differently. But either way, I mean, not a bad game one. What do you think the adjustments that can be made here? Because it felt pretty close. Just maybe some targeting changes would have probably sealed it the other way. What do you think?
Yeah, if I were Magic, I would probably preserve the Flutter Mane. Honestly, losing the Flutter Mane that turn one was really bad
Yeah,
because
yeah,
Dragonite's free to Outrage, it's free to E-Speed. Usually when you have a Flutter Mane, you kind of want to preserve it, especially
that's true.
versus a Chen Pao and Dragonite. Not much can really hit it. So if I were kind of expecting an adjustment, potentially protecting that Flutter Mane, either leading it with an Amoonguss to redirect, or not even just leading it and preserving it late game, just for that Dragonite, because we know that Dragonite was saved in the back, so potentially preserving your Flutter Mane in the back would be ideal.
Yeah, I will say one of the good things is like the game wasn't too out of hand where you couldn't learn how to make adjustments and pick up the win. And the one thing I think was the biggest aspect to me was Rilla surviving that is a huge thing to know. Just being able to have the chance to survive that on 13 HP and then potentially get off an attack now kind of changes how you approach this, because if you end up in another situation like that, you just know, okay, I didn't get the KO last time. So, will that put a little bit of a doubt in there and you probably change your play and you target something else instead? But we'll have to wait and see, as they have locked in for this game too. So, we're about to transition over and let's see what these leads are going to see this time around.
I'm expecting their Shifu lead again, just because abusing that rain was really good, and maybe we can see a Amoonguss Flutter Mane, like I mentioned earlier. This was really good to deter it from dying right away, and preserving their Flutter Mane is really good for the Dragonite in the back. So I actually really like this adjustment, like I mentioned earlier. This is a pretty good adjustment at all, I'd say. Amoonguss is probably free to either Rage Powder. I could potentially see a Terra Water here to protect it from it all, and Flutter Mane can just really Dazzling Gleam, and that's really really good here.
Yeah, Amoonguss being something that really is just hard to take out, of course, with the Terra Water, and then it can do Icicle Crashes, and Flutter Mane's kind of free to just do whatever damage it wants to, so a really good adjustment here, knowing that Amoonguss kind of helps me out here. So, kind of a tough choice where you're going to attack here, because you can potentially get redirected. You don't necessarily want to use a Terra this early, so kind of in a rough spot. Potentially, I do see just a non-Terra and just a Rage Powder. I could see a Terra Water here, just so you can make sure you live an Icicle Crash, and then you can continue to spam damage with Flutter Mane here. As Urshifu does retreat from the battlefield, and who will we take its place? Potentially, I would say that Rilla, and it is the Rilla. And this could potentially just be a very defensive play where they protect or detect the Chen Pao, but we'll have to wait and see. And a Terra does come out.
Looks like it's the Amoonguss. That was actually a really good spot for a Rillaboom. I mean, now you can really Woodhammer the next turn, and as we know from the team sheet, Amoonguss does not carry and protect. So this was actually a pretty safe play, to be honest, protecting Chen Pao to preserve it from dying from Dazzling Gleam, and positioning out Urshifu because you're not doing much versus a Terra Grass, potentially Flutter Mane, and Amoonguss, and Rillaboom can punish both here.
Absolutely, so, and just like you called it, a really, really good swap, because it was that Rage Powder, it is the Dazzling Gleam, but unfortunately, not going to do too much, especially the fact that we did see the Protect come off for the Chen Pao. Does a little bit of damage, but not even close, of course, with the grassy terrain healing back just a little bit of that HP, and really, really tough turn right now because you're in such a rough spot. Flutter Mane really doesn't want to take a Woodhammer. Amoonguss doesn't want to take a Woodhammer. Nothing really wants to take anything from Chen Pao or Rilla right now, so I don't know really what you can do in this turn. So what do you think is your best option here?
Well, Magic's here is going to have to make a swap on that Amoonguss or sack it here, and the Flutter Mane is probably just going to Dazzling Gleam again. He can also just Rage Powder potentially, assuming to sack the Amoonguss to redirect the Icicle Crash and potentially break the Sash here, but realistically the Amoonguss is dying this turn, and looks like he's trying to get a Spore off this turn as well. So, the flinch is really unfortunate, and this is why you want Crash.
That is truly huge.
I mean, like, Crash is just that move. I mean, one, of course, you don't run Ice Spinner because you want to keep your own terrain here, and the benefits of having Crash here is keeping your terrain, and that flinch chance is really huge. And as we can see here, that's a really big flinch.
Oh, absolutely. Just taking that a lot of damage, and you thought, okay, I can get some damage back to potentially help Basket Legion if in the back or whatever's in the back. But now you're just kind of, and it is the Basket Legion in the back, so now you're in a tough spot. I mean, we do know this. I mean, of course, anything that touches a Rillaboom, it will go down. But the problem is the Sash is still intact for the Chen Pao. So kind of a rough spot. Sucker Punch, of course, is threatening Flutter Mane as well. So what this is a tough spot to be in, and I'm not sure really how you can get out of this right now.
Especially after burning the Terra on the Amoonguss that early, Basket Legion is not going to appreciate any kind of chip from the Chen Pao. But a really good protect here, calling that double up, and Dazzling Gleam's free to potentially kill Rillaboom here. Yep, and breaking the Chen Pao Sash. So actually, this game was actually kind of flipped forward now, because Basket Legion here can Aqua Jet the Chen Pao the next turn, I'm assuming there's Pelipper in the back to take advantage of the rain and Swift Swim, so Chien-Pao can't even touch Basket Legion potentially, and this game might have just got flipped over. So let's see.
Exactly. We have to wait and see. And definitely a fantastic turn. Something as simple as just protect really changed the momentum of this game as Urshifu does come in. And we, of course, do know that potentially, well, not even potentially, if you bring Basket Legion, you got to bring the rain. So we do know it is here. Now, the question is, how do you make sure you take care of everything here? But, I mean, Basket Legion is kind of untouched. You can kind of Terra Water here, and you kind of can just pick a target, really. I mean, the Urshifu is not really the most threatening thing just because you do still have Flutter Mane here, and you, of course, have Pelipper in the back. All you have to do is really get rid of Chien-Pao. Oh, and we potentially might see a dangerous swap here into some damage. I don't know about that one.
I think he's calling the Flutter Mane swap here to Pelipper is the only reason why he made this play, to take the Aqua Jet and preserving Chien-Pao late game. Which
I can see it, but
he does
call
it. Yep, there you go. So Chien-Pao's still alive, and Dragonite's not going to take a whole lot from this. So I actually really like this, and Terra Aqua Jet seems like an alright play, just get as much damage as possible. And now this is a pretty interesting scenario, because Urshifu, well, now the Terra is finally burnt here, and you have to worry about this almost full health Urshifu. It's actually full health, it's not helmet on Pelipper.
Yeah.
And not too sure how you can get rid of this actually now. Hurricane is no longer super effective, and Dragonite's on the field to get rid of Pelipper as well.
And we do see the Aqua Jet come out, does negligible damage, and does take a Life Orb recoil. Probably took more from Life Orb than actually did damage. And the Terra Aqua Jet does come out. And let's see how much this does. In the rain, doesn't do much, but a good amount of chip damage. Could have, if the Flutter Mane did stay in, would have picked up the KO, and Urshifu's still at full health. So a great switch, and now Basket Legion and Pelipper are in a really tough spot because you don't have a lot of damage you can do into both of these targets. You do have to pick one, while the other, mainly Urshifu, is just taking advantage of your own rain that you set up. So what can Magic do to potentially bring this back in favor, because the momentum is not on his side?
Well, we know Pelipper cannot protect anyways, and it's actually probably going to die to Surgeon Strikes, but as we can see here, there's going to be a double target potentially on this Basket Legion. I don't know what Magic can do exactly, but because Last Respect is only boosted by 1 now, hopefully, maybe, potentially, it can kill their Urshifu, but it's only 100 base power, so we can either call just gain damage as much as possible. Oh, the Helping Hand, actually. So this actually might kill their Urshifu. I'm assuming you would target Urshifu here, because that is Mystic Water boosted.
And there was the Last Respect. It's actually into the Dragonite and does pick up a KO. That makes things a little more interesting, all depending on, of course, the target for this Urshifu here. And it is Surging Strike, of course, the Terra Water in rain with Mystic Water Surging Strike.
Oh my god, that
into the Basket Legion. Wow, that's a lot. Oh, barely, but the problem is Aqua Jet is still a thing, and that's a rough turn there. You do pick up the Dragonite, but I mean, kind of at what cost? The one good thing is here, you could potentially protect and get some more HP back, but that does leave Pelipper kind of sitting there, not really able to do much, because any attack, it'll probably go down. But all in all, I mean, not a bad play. It kind of puts you in a spot where this is winnable, but, you know, it's going to take a little bit more.
It's going to come down to the correct targeting here, but I think the Aqua Jet's always the right play here, because Bastion cannot protect. Exactly. And then from here, you're kind of hoping if... Oh, okay, this is a very interesting play. Keeping the
opting to sack the Flutter Mane here. I mean, this could potentially work out if Pelipper somehow survives this. The Aqua Jet's going into that slot. Oh, this is huge, because if the Aqua Jet goes there and there's a Hurricane into that slot, you will get enough damage where you potentially could get another turn to take it out. Of course, Flutter Mane does go down. Now let's see how much this does.
This might have been a comeback. The Protect there was a pretty alright play to prevent the Aqua Jet from KO, but the Hurricane KOs here, which of course it doesn't. It's a very bulky Urshifu. It's going to come down to the wire, I feel. One turn of rain left is still ideal, because basically you can now Aqua Jet the Chien-Pao there. But the problem is if Hurricane can KO this Urshifu. But it looks like, I don't know. It's going to come down to the correct target here. It's going to be a little tricky.
Exactly. I don't think it's like, no matter what situation, I think you always have to just go for the Surging Strikes. I mean, not the Surging Strike, the Aqua Jet into the Basket Legion, because it's pretty much in KO range, and Aqua Jet does come out. Oh, wait.
Outprioritizes in the Chien-Pao because of the Swift Swim.
Yeah.
And it should live 1 tick. So this is going to be a very interesting in-game. Surging Strikes.
Oh, it's a Surging instead.
Kills the Pelipper. Oh, ouch.
I don't think that kills. Yeah, that doesn't take out the Pelipper.
Wow.
That doesn't take out at all.
That is a very bulky Pelipper. that's like I think that's max defense. Like that.
My goodness. And it's paying off
Yeah,
because now
and
you get to get the Hurricane off this turn.
yeah, and suddenly this game has been flipped over, and this might just die. Okay, so it looks
On
like
Forge and the
oh,
confusion just to just to help out just a little bit. But either way, it is a 2v1, and Urshifu has to pick one target. So no matter what, Magic was able to bring this back.
Yeah, Magic's easily free to Tailwind here in Aqua Jet, and I think this is GG, and we might have a game 3 here. And hits with some That's a bad way to go out.
What a way to go out.
I mean, to be fair, there was an Icicle Crash Flinch earlier, so
True.
maybe we're trying out some luck here. But honestly, Magic came back really strong. I think he made some quick plays. I think second and foremost was actually the right play there to preserve the Basket Leech for the Aqua Jet later on, which we saw kill the Chen Pal. So I think that was really important to do. And the Damp Rock on the Pelipper was actually really carrying too, because those 8 rounds of rain really helped out.
Exactly. Even though Urshifu was able to take advantage of a lot of those turns, still, it was just enough. And Pelipper just kind of being the hero, the star of the show, because we all thought, oh, it's up to Basket Legion, but no, 2 Hurricanes and a couple here and there. And, of course, the biggest thing was able to tank the Surging Strikes in the rain, which was phenomenal,
I'm honestly
to be honest
really surprised. I mean, I knew that would kill with the Shambo for sure, but I guess that makes sense since you're a Damp Rock Pelipper. Usually, I'm so used to seeing these max modest speed with the Sash, but with a good amount of bulk, Pelipper can easily hit hits, which is really impressive. So that's really cool to see.
Absolutely. So we have seen for the most part the same Mons, but Amoonguss, of course, was the big adjustment for Magic. Didn't really work out as much as you'd liked, just because did call the Terra and did, of course, absolutely did a phenomenal switch bringing in Rilla there. Do you think Amoonguss comes back just because of how that last game just went, or do you think maybe we switch something up?
I think he still has to bring Amoonguss. He might not necessarily have to Terra at this time though, just because the forward that's always coming here is I think covers a lot of the rain, and Terra and Water Rain, as we saw, was punished by that Woodhammer there. And I think potentially you can take one crash with Amoonguss, and it also if Chen Pal protects, that also covers that as well. So I expect here to preserve Terras more, but I expect to see the same 4.
Absolutely. As we are about to transition into for all the marbles, and it is the same lead. Yep, exactly the same lead. So now this is all.
Yep.
Now it's a game of I know that I know what happened last game. So what changes is the biggest question here. Fluttermane, of course, still a threat. Amoonguss still a threat because it can just Rage Powder. And the question is, do you call and make the same change and just switch in Rilla now, or do you just go for damage and see where it happens?
I think the Rage Powder play is really safe, but in this case, I think you don't have to Terra necessarily. Like as long as you get chip on either Mon, Basket Legion can clean it up late game as we saw, and I think the Rage Powder Dazzling is really safe. If he does burn Terra, he can also overcome it because as we saw, he was able to still win after burning Terra the turn 1. And yeah, as we can see here, Amoonguss should live.
Ooh, does live, able to take that.
This is a great turn 1.
Oh, that's huge.
No Rage Powder as well, and Urshifu's is down with no Terra. So this is a huge turn 1, and if Amoonguss doesn't flinch here, this Chen Pal's going to sleep or just dying.
Absolutely. That was an absolute ball of a play. And the Pollen Puff, and that's a double KO.
Oh my god.
Now, with all due respect, there's somebody holding Last Respects in the back, and I'm not sure how you're going to get through that because you still haven't gotten through Amoonguss and Fluttermane here. An absolutely baller play. Just, you know what? I'm going to just go for damage, and you have to be the one to stop me. And it worked out perfectly. Amoonguss was the call, and just opting just not to Terra. Knew they could tank the Icicle Crash, and a fantastic call there by Magic.
Yeah, I'm really surprised there's no Urshifu Terra, or even, I think the swap to Rillaboom wouldn't have been punished at all, because as we saw at the game 2, it worked out just fine, but going all out and getting punished for it greatly. So this is going to, I mean, honestly, this Fluttermane's in a great spot right now. It can easily protect, and this Amoonguss can just go away. You don't really need Amoonguss anymore. You get the free protect, you get the scout out for the choice item, and you have 2 Mons left in the back for free, and it's gonna be a free V2.
Absolutely, yeah. So, because Dragon Knight does have to lock into something here. So yeah, I'm honestly just as surprised as you are because I thought even at least a Terra just so you can make sure Urshifu gets some hits off and some good damage. But we didn't even see that. So a really tough spot and a game of chicken. And unfortunately, Olsson did lose there. So we do see the Terra about to be locked in. But the question is, what move do you lock into? You're locked in for the rest of the game, so you have to make it count. And you do have a fairy here, so it's hard for you to just, oh, I'm gonna click outrage, because potentially you will just get, hit into immunity. So I'm
It
a
looks
little
like he's
lost for
still
what can
going for
happen
it.
here.
Looks like he's still going for an outrage here.
It's just fair. You kind of have to. There's no
Oh,
really
this
choice.
Among Us swap is really interesting here.
Oh, into
In
the
the rain,
Pelipper.
I actually don't mind this play at all, because now if Pelipper goes down, you have the last respects boosted as well, and boosting your last respects is going to be really good versus that Rillaboom.
Absolutely. For right now, we just know what Last Respects did before. We just need a little, like, I think if you're Magic, all you need is chip here. You're just chipping everything away for Last Respects, and Amoonguss is still in the back, which is an annoying thing. If you ever get a point where it's Amoonguss and Basculegion out on the same field at the same time, that's even harder to break through. So we do see a Protect from the Flutter. Woodhammer does go into that slot. Unfortunately, does go into a Protect. Now, this Outrage, of course, that's what we're...
It's
Oh,
the Flutter, man.
no.
That's the downside of locking yourself in an outrage there. I think locking himself in
Absolutely.
aerial ace might have been more ideal, but I guess he was really hoping for, if you get rid of the Flutter Mane, you're free to outrage, and potentially you can come back. But this is not looking the best right now.
Absolutely. Even though you are and we do see the helping hand, of course, and just opting to just, you know what, I'm gonna get off as much damage as possible. Big Dazzling Gleam comes out here, that does a
Ugh.
ton. Woodhammer, of course, but you will have to take a lot of recoil, and with, of course, a critical hit. Not sure if that mattered. It is Woodhammer and it is in terrain, so don't think it mattered too much there. But it's enough recoil and damage has been going around. Outrage does connect, and Pelipper doesn't even go.
Lives!
This Pelipper is the tankiest Pelipper I think we've ever seen. Absolutely amazing.
That's
Like,
actually insane.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that
now
escalation's
oh,
free.
here
The wave
comes.
crash. It's a free wave
Oh,
crash and hurricane, and Magic cannot lose unless he targets in a Pokemon. I really can't say.
yeah,
Like,
and then there's still like an Amoonguss somewhere in the back that can help
yeah,
do like there's a lot going on. This Basket Legion wave
yep,
crash
the
comes
wave
out in the
crash.
rain, absolutely KOs here. Pelipper's free to go for a
Rillaboom can't kill
hurricane.
both, and
Absolutely. Amazing game three, full of offense and a lot of big swings that a lot of haymakers Magic threw, and they all landed really, really great stuff. As
yeah,
we do see the HP tick down, but the Woodhammer does come out. You have to take recoil damage as well.
yep.
Pelipper, the star of the show, is
This is
Pelipper.
this is the tankiest Pelipper I've ever seen,
Oh,
honestly.
absolutely.
And Magic's like he can make those really safe sacks there because he had such an mana advantage. Like that turn one was really defining his game three. Not Terran or Shifu or
Absolutely.
making that swap to Rillaboom again. Got hugely
Wow.
punished for it, and Magic had the upper hand throughout the game, and it was really hard to come back from that, basically.
True, true, true. And that's the one thing you gotta love about like game threes, because we saw how I went in game one, we saw I went in game two. Game three was just kind of one of those where it's like, the old saying, when you and a trainer lock eyes, you have to battle. That was that moment where it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna click it, and worked. Like
Yeah,
Olson really after that turn one couldn't really bring it back and tried to scramble, get some KOs, but it was never enough just because of the type advantages having. Amoonguss was still in the back. Fluttermane got the damage it needed. Basket Legion just like, oh, okay, rain's up. Yeah, I'm just gonna delete something. And Pelipper
it,
kind of like, yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and tank damage, tank the outrage, and then I get the Hurricane off to finish the show. And a really, really great game in that game three there.
yeah, that's how you really EV a Pelipper, because that Pelipper was really tanky. The
Mm-hmm.
Fluttermane was also, I would say, one of the highlights after Manny realized how to utilize the Fluttermane, preserving the Fluttermane so you can't
Yeah,
get outrage and ESP in the back was really ideal. As we saw that the game two and the game three, you really utilized it really well, and yeah,
that's true.
it was just really. I
Yeah,
think the adjustments were really good, and just going all out in the game three was definitely punished for it, and that's just how it happened.
yeah, I do think like sometimes there is those moments where you just like what the other person is gonna do, what they can do, and you have a moment where you like, you know what, if I get it right, I could potentially just win here. Magic, unfortunately, was the one who got it. Olsen really, tried to go a little out there. I think the only thing I think that, of course, we've talked about was just like the not tearing the Urshifu. I don't think
Yeah,
there was a reason not to. You wanted to at least, if you're gonna go down, at least make sure you take something with you and or get off some damage. I know you're afraid of potentially just running to the Mungus with the Rage Powder, but at that point, if you're gonna go for a play like that, you kind of just got to go all in. And unfortunately, just kind of half-heartedly went in and lost both Pokemon that same turn. So
yeah. I think
Yeah.
that game 3 could have gone anyway, really, if the
Oh
swap
yeah.
was made back. I think the game 2 adjustment, or the game 2 win with the Rillaboom, anyways.
Mhm.
I think that was perfectly fine to repeat that again. But kind
Yeah.
of, I may be reading either a Flutter Mane swap or potentially like that. It was a huge call. In a game
Yeah.
3, sometimes you gotta make those calls, and if they work, they work, and if they don't, you get extremely punished for it, as you can see, because you only have 1 life left, and
Yeah.
that's what happens.
That's true. That's true. So either way, congratulations to Olson making it all the way this far in this tournament. So it was a great run. And I mean, listen, if you're gonna go out, at least have it be a banger of a match. And that was
Yeah, that
absolutely
was fun.
fuego. Loved it. And
Congrats
Magic
to
will
both.
continue on to the next round. So we'll have to see what our next round is up. But man, I'm still kind of in awe. I haven't seen a Pelipper like that. Like I don't think
Yeah.
ever.
They're all
We saw it
focus
tank the
sash
outrage.
usually, and
Yeah, and even if they're
Amprock,
tanky,
it's like,
they're not
oh
like
my
that.
god.
Yeah.
Living the Mystic Water in rain
Mhm.
boosted, right?
Mhm.
And you're taking a Choice Man Outrage from a Dragon Knight. That's
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I removed my
like
chat
it's one
because
thing
it's
for the Urshifu. Oh no, listen, you rep the Tang Gang. People need to know the
yeah.
people are here to
Oh
see
yeah,
you in your
I'm reading the
debut.
chat. I'm reading the chat. You know, it's getting a little warm in here. That game, you know, the rain was there, but the sun. I felt the sun, man. It was too warm.
Man, they're gonna create a
But
lot of
yeah.
humidity here for us. But
Yeah.
either way, I'm definitely ready to see what this next round's got in store for us. So we'll definitely be right back. So give us some time. We're gonna see what our next match is, and man, of course, by all means, take the floor, address your fans because they're happy to see you at your debut, bro.
Yeah, no, this has been fun, honestly. And who knows, maybe I'll steal one of these winning teams because the Worlds is coming up and I still need a team. So, you know, casting's cool. I get to scout the teams too, so, you know, who knows.
Yeah. A win is a win in every aspect.
Yeah,
You get to cast and you get to see. Oh, that's a good idea. Let me,
exactly.
Either way,
This
everybody
too.
stay tuned. Oh my gosh, Justin's gonna be scouting your teams. You stay tuned, and we're gonna have some more action for you.